It's a space beyond a space and a time beyond a time. Hey friends, what's up? It is Mina and welcome to another video on this channel. If you are new here, what's up? Welcome. I talk about a myriad of subjects on this YouTube channel, from the witchy and the woo, the metaphysical, shamanic, magical, herbal, alchemical, to just conversations around like the workplace and fostering good relationships with ourselves as well as with others. Single mom to a teen and a few fur babies. So anyway, if any of those things are subjects that you resonate with and want to involve yourself in conversation with, then I invite you to be with me on this channel. So, I'm doing some laundry, I'm doing some folding, and we're going to talk about Samhain. Samhain is coming up 4 days away, and I'm going to do something a little bit different next year, but since we are so close, it really wasn't until today that I started thinking about preparing for Samhain and what that looks like. And what that looks like for my life, you know. So preparing for any Sabbat can look different depending on the year. You know, there might be a myriad of reasons why it looks different depending on the year. You might have more or less money. You might be between relationships, starting a new relationship, ending relationships. You might be traveling. So the people in your life and the community aspect could look different. So I just want to say first and foremost that it's super important that you find a balance between looking into resources that align with your spiritual path and traditionally what those sorts of practices, cultures, pantheons, whatever, what have you, what they often do, right? So it's good to have a general understanding of what Samhain or Halloween could look like for you, and then also what you want it to look like. So it doesn't have to be super ceremonial if you're a pagan or magic worker, but it could be. You don't have to do a lot of work with the dead, but you could. So first and foremost, so let's just dive in. Let's talk about some of the energies of Samhain. First and foremost, I could say that for any of these points, but we see Samhain as a huge time to honor the dead. We have, in Spanish culture, they celebrate the Day of the Dead, which falls right after Halloween/Samhain. Samhain is also matched with Beltane, so right around our equinox time frame. We find that the veil is especially thin during that time. This is a conversation that has been in the magical and spiritual circulation for years. So when the veil is thin and when it's a great time to be mindful of spirit, that could look like anything. There are so many things that could look like within your Samhain practice. From a more mystical, magical side of things, you might choose to delve into some divination work that corresponds with communing with the dead. You know, it might be a time that you want to pick up your Ouija board. It might be a time that, you know, you want to sit down in meditative space, or, you know, whip out the books on mediumship and try to connect with, maybe some spirits that have passed on. these things are not to be feared. Okay, one of my biggest gripes as a magic worker myself, and one that just delves into the land of the woo and energy and all that, is the misrepresentation that we see in mainstream media and Hollywood of what working with the dead actually looks like, and how much they just like infuse it with horror themes and evil energies. Which, you know, if you are somebody that was not just born with all these gifts, but you are like so many of us, and like myself, who have, you know, kind of gone into this path in the energy of development. If you are somebody that's developing yourself into a medium and wasn't just born with said gifts, then having the energy of Hollywood and their perversion of what this work looks like is a hindrance for sure. So any sort of divination is great for Halloween / Samhain. Any of it. Any kind of work where you are honoring your ancestors. So this could be where maybe you're having just like a moment of remembrance. You could be looking through old photos and just kind of... So ancestors. So yeah, you could be sitting down with some photos and just kind of having a session of remembrance. You could go into a guided meditation, or like what I've been doing lately is I have been taking a shamanic healing class. So, you know, based on this class, I would do like an ancestral healing session for myself, self-guided session. So that could be really great, you know, doing some sort of ancestral healing work on Samhain. You can also look into certain energies within history. So like I have an ancestor on my dad's side who, you know, had a big who was Spanish, and then came into Mexico and conquered the Aztecs and some of that energy. And I've been fascinated about learning this person's story, but I have never actually sat down to read about it. That could also be a really fun energy to do around Samhain. And just to kind of piggyback off, look at this. It's wrinkly, but if you like Sleep Token, isn't that awesome? I love it. It does not look good on big blocky imagery on shirts in this format with a body like this. No, does not look good, but on TikTok it looked great. So yeah, the history aspect, super great. Love that idea. And these were just kind of coming to me when I was journaling today, because I was like, you know, what does it look like for my life right now? Also, we've had so many epic legends that have passed on. You know, think about like within music, David Bowie and Prince and Jimi Hendrix, and you know, all these people, all of these legends. We've had legendary actors that have passed on. So wouldn't it be fun to be intentional with even your playful Halloween vibe, where you're like, you know, I want to watch a spooky movie on Halloween, on Samhain, that has a main character from somebody that I really, really like that's passed on. That little tiny gesture is a nod. It's a tip of your hat to the spirit world that says, you know, I'm aware of the cycles and energies around me, and I honor them. I honor them. Also, we talk about with Samhain, there are lots of conversations in the pagan community, and there are always outliers that have different practices, but for the most part, those of us in the pagan community celebrate Samhain as our witch's new year. And so for me, when I was doing my journaling today, I was thinking, okay, what's an energy of a new year? As you build towards the new year, oftentimes we reflect. We reflect on what we accomplished. We reflect on what we did and how it went. And when it comes to Samhain versus the Gregorian calendar, this is in a magical mindset. So when we think about like, what did I accomplish from Samhain of 24 to right now in 2025, it might be a great idea to think about that in a spiritual capacity, in a magical capacity. Like, did you have specific magically based goals? You know, like, was your goal to meditate more often? Or was it to share more of your, tarot readings with your community? Maybe you had a psychic development goal or something like that. And so, I always think that it's a great idea as you prepare for a new year to hold space for those things. So what my intention is every day this week, especially because, we're busy. Sometimes we have more or less time for certain things, but every day this week, I want to get into my gratitude journal and just hold space for things that I'm grateful for during this past year. Yeah, so I think that, winding the year down, starting with gratitude and holding space for like, what have I accomplished? What have I made it through? And then when the new year happens, we're in celebration. And for Samhain, that's honoring. We're focusing on honoring the dead. And then we're preparing for the goals for that next year. So the next year from Samhain to Samhain, make those goals soul-based, energy-based, magically based. Make it a goal that's going to serve your peace and bliss in a way that is unseen to the physical world. Start to get familiar with the energy of the thing, with the frequency, the intention, and the subtle changes that we do that you cannot physically see. Hey friends, so I did think of one more thing that I wanted to mention. I just changed into my jammies. Another thing that would be super great for the Samhain season would be a journal review. So I had talked about a journal review. The video is probably deleted at this point, but I had thought about it last year around this time, I would say. And Samhain being a magical new year, it's a great time for review. So reviewing your journal to see and to read about, like, what were you talking about this past year? And, what was the mindset? And what was the external reality? How were things? What was the energy and the theme of a lot of these conversations? And just see, like, did it improve over time? Were there constant struggles in areas that maybe could be an inspiration for some goals? So, yeah, just wanted to share that. Okay, bye! Also for Samhain, sometimes what people choose to do, pagans and magic workers, witches especially, is we might choose to base our costume around who we are trying to become. So we may choose to be a little bit more intentional with the costume. Now, of course, don't be too serious. Make it playful, make it fun. But you know the difference. Don't let the gruesome makeup mess you up. Like, oh gosh, I want to become a doctor, but I made myself a zombie doctor. Does that mean I'm doomed? Don't overthink it. But, think about what you're trying to accomplish. Who are you trying to be in your life? And can you kind of gear your costume for that? That could be super fun. And then lastly, for Samhain, it's a great time for celebration, for ritual, for ceremony, for snacks. We like to try to think about like what foods are ripe and aligned for the season, what colors and energies speak of autumn, but could you bring in some other colors that maybe gear more towards spring because your goals are like based around that time frame. So I'm even playing around with that, with the idea, and I haven't gone too far into it quite yet. But, something that has kind of tripped me up in the past is the words of ritual. I've gotten to a place where I just kind of let it flow. But especially when I'm just doing ceremony by myself, I would rather focus on the movement of what I'm creating. If I'm just like, I don't have to say words. And so it's a fun idea and one that I want to put into practice, where it's like a wordless ceremony. Just being in the space, breathing in the space, and practicing directing your intention and energy through means outside of voice. Ultimately, every Sabbath, every holiday, every day, honestly, is a fun opportunity for us to be curious, have fun, be playful, challenge ourselves, inspire ourselves, surprise ourselves. Remember all of the amazing things we've accomplished and all of the great things that we are also striving to do, So yeah, this was just a little list of ways to prepare for Samhain that I came up with today when I was doing some journaling and just thinking about it for my life. I'm sure there are lots of videos out there on the subject that are more just like very ritual based, or not, but I love purchasing beautiful things. Like I just showed you an athame I had right there. Like I picked up this beautiful septarian crystal this month when I was out shopping with a friend of mine. So like I love having beautiful things, okay? But I also love the practice of we don't have to spend a ton of money to honor the goddess, to honor Gaia, to honor the seasons and what is happening within our lives and external from us as things ripple out. It doesn't have to be this huge, arduous, expensive ordeal. I spent a year of my life just having my celebration and ceremony just be right here in my journal and just holding space for my thoughts and my feelings and my intentions, and just having the words be the magic of what I was creating. So, hopefully some of this inspires you. Sometimes it's really just a permission slip to say there are so many things out there. Your path just needs to feel right for you. So I hope that you enjoyed this conversation. As always, please share your thoughts. Anything that I missed in this little list that kind of balance, maybe crafts and some of those things. Anyway, between the mundane muggle world and the magical space, what did I miss? What fun, creative things, do you have planned or have you done in the past for Samhain that's really just made it the most magical night for you? I would love to hear any of those thoughts or shares down in that comment section below. Laying on my clean clothes. What are you doing? Come on. So, any which way to get a hold of me further, of course, will be down in that description box. As you know, what is happening here? Oh gosh, it's getting all messed up. I don't know how people make these videos where they're like, I'm doing things and talking. Some people are amazing, and I'm just struggle busting it along, and that's fine. Stay wild and spooky, but most of all, stay magical, friends. I will see you next time. This is Mina. Until then, take care.